Probably so.
It says it there. Anyway, good morning. What's
Good
up?
morning. How are you?
Cheers.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers. What mug do you have today?
Today is Michelle Obama.
Okay.
I see I spilled my tea down the side. Oh, sorry.
Oh, didn't you love her book?
I absolutely adored the book. And I got a chance to talk to her about it. But
Okay. Yeah, I want to hear about that too. But yeah,
rub that
the
part
book.
in. No, I did. And she always talks about how there's power in our stories, and in your story. And a lot of us don't think that there's necessarily our particular story is that powerful or that different, because you're just living it, trying to get from day to day, but you often don't recognize how extraordinary it is and how it can inspire other people. So that was one of the things I loved about her book, which I think is right here.
I listened to the audiobook. Awesome. Did she sign it?
She did.
Okay, will you show? It says to Lonnell.
It was wonderful flying with you. Remember, our stories have power.
Oh, that's so cool.
Warmly, Michelle Obama.
Okay.
Not just anybody, but warmly.
She's like one of my spirit animals, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Love that woman. Love that woman. And she's got the journal now that accompanies the book, and it asks you different questions as you're journaling and stuff. It's pretty good.
It's funny because like every time I talk to you, I'm just filled with so much joy. Like I think I'm like tearing up with joy. Anyway, that's really powerful because as a kid, I'm one of the executive coaches for this company here. It's a wellness company, and I was just talking about the power of a story and the power of their story and stepping into their own light. I was kind of channeling you because one of my favorite quotes is one of your quotes about how you need to step in your own light. And followed by another one of my favorite quotes by Marianne Williamson, where she says, and I'm going to butcher it right now, but essentially she talks about like how it is not our darkness that we fear most, it is our light. And once we step into our light, we're always afraid of of what people would think about us, or what we will think about us, about like, oh, who am I not to be fabulous? Who am I not to be wealthy? And I don't mean just like monetarily, but I also mean like spiritually wealthy, abundance, with energy and love from people. But when you step into that light, so many people see themselves in your light, and they feel like they have permission to step in your light. But let's be real, right now it's really hard to step in your light. I've been talking a lot about that, right?
Yeah.
And about this, like when we were chatting about what we're going to talk about today, we automatically agreed that the world as a whole, since COVID-19 and us around the world collectively co-creating this experience and going through this experience, we have all been experiencing this grief. And I'd love to, we were saying that we love to chat about like, oh, good grief, right? How do you work?
Right, good grief.
Right? And how do you work?
Maybe there is good grief, maybe. Yeah. We'll talk about it.
So, there's this article, this Harvard article, that was written about how like that yucky experience that we are all experiencing, no matter who we are,
right,
is this thing called grief. And I'd love to see how you're doing with your grieving, and I can share with how I'm dealing with my grieving. But it just on a whole level, it just, aside from losing one of my dear friends, Maria Mercator, who was a top executive and a spiritual soul sister of mine at the CBS network, losing her physically was definitely this grieving that at the top of my mind when it comes to grief. But where grief comes in lots of different forms, right?
Right.
Like losing your schedule, right? Losing your job, losing your home.
Mourning the loss of relationships, whether it be physical or even spiritual mourning. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of grief, and I'm finding myself surrounded by it. I thought it was like a lot of anxiety initially, and it's an anxiety producing, but I realized that there's just a lot of grief and all this uncertainty that's going on currently in the world. I recently, a very dear friend of mine out of Philadelphia, his mom just passed, and just we weren't expecting that at all. And every time I read a post of his, he was, I would hope that it was something that I'm going to wake up and that it's going to be a different result. You've spoken about that in the past with your brother-in-law's suicide. You were talking about how you just want to if you read it again, maybe it won't be true. It'll be
Yeah.
different. You'll wake up and it was
Yeah, like this nightmare. Yeah.
And then I've got another friend who is having a lot of financial anxiety, being laid off and then no income coming in, and then the unemployment benefits taking forever to get there. So there's a lot of anxiety with that. Um, there's just so much. There's just so much. We're just grieving on so many levels. But I think it's really like it's an opportunity to purge on so many levels. So it's okay to feel. My thing has always been it's okay to feel emotions or feel the pain of whatever you're going through. Just don't get stuck there.
Mm.
Just don't get stuck there. And that's something I have to remind myself all the time. I'm like, well, what's happening with travel? What's happening with work? What's this? But I know just through having weathered so many storms in my life that I'll get through it one way or the other. I'll be fine. But a lot of people don't necessarily have that. They don't know. And we all grieve differently. And there is no one way to grieve. So that's kind of where I am. I'm almost overwhelmed because how do I encourage and support and be there for all of these people in my circle that are collectively going through some type of grief, but yet not take it on as my own and
Mm.
not, so that's been my challenge. I'm fine with working with, in my toolbox for the things that work in my journey. But when there are people, so many loved ones around you that are going through various levels and stages of grief, how can I be there for them without like letting it topple me as well, not taking on all this stress. So that's where I am with it all. Like, oh,
Good grief.
good grief.
Yeah, I think too that you and I are energetically tuned into that same vibration. So we are very empathic human beings. And so
Yes.
when a big
And
event,
we practice this stuff
yeah,
constantly.
right?
You
when
practice
when
empathy,
when
yeah.
like the Columbine shooting happened back in the day, I can clearly remember where I was at. I was at my brother's girlfriend's house, sitting on the bunk bed talking to her when we both felt like this icky feeling. And then when 9/11 happened, I just felt this like ickiness, and then I turned on the news and it was just mayhem and pandemonium. And I think that a part of it is processing it. One of the things that I learned is that I just can't like shoo it away because I expect that it doesn't exist. You have to process all the
Right.
experiences and all the feels and find a way that's healthiest for you. So like for me, I love to go on walks. I love to work out. Trying to still enlist you in CrossFit, boo.
Listen, I just got back on rollerblades yesterday for the first
Okay.
time in like 10 years. Baby steps, Swan, baby steps.
Baby rolls. Slow your roll, boo. Slow your
Slow
roll.
your roll.
Don't you love rollerblading though? Like I need
I
that's such an
do.
80s thing, right? Is it 90s? 90s, 90s.
Yeah, 90s. But it was so much fun. We have this belt line, this bike path, bike trail, or
I
whatever
love
that
the belt line, yes.
yeah. And so I was out there yesterday and I did 2 miles. But when I tell you, felt like I was like, but it's like, okay, obviously you need to continue doing this. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed being in the sunshine. And it wasn't crowded, so you could still keep your social distancing. I enjoyed feeling like the wind on my face as I was blading. I enjoyed the sense of accomplishment when I like was able to skate all the way up a little hill or incline without stopping, although I wanted to faint when I got to the top. But it was these type of things and it really shifted my mood because I felt just a bit better about the day just because from that little bit of exercise and that exposure to the sun and just appreciating all that stuff that was going on around me.
Mm.
But yeah, it was a blast, and I'm going to alternate. Some days I'm going to run, some days I'm going to rollerblade, and some days I'm going to bicycle.
Oh,
So, and
yes.
just kind of keep myself, um, just my mind occupied and my endorphins moving. I mean, that really does make a difference when you have some type of exercise or expend some type of energy. For
One
me,
day, one day, one day I'll get you to say, and then some days I CrossFit.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. I think that there's no one prescription, one RX, one thing you can do to process your grief. But a
Right.
part of it is tapping into um, a part of it is your history, your biology. Part of it's your biography, right? And just doing what is best for you. Like for some people, I gain so much wisdom and excitement chatting with you and chatting with other soul siblings. Really one of the biggest gifts ever in life that money can't buy. And then sometimes the introverted me just wants to sit and like I've been obsessed with like journaling and I have like gardening books. I've been getting into like I'm gonna show you real quick here. Dare I move my computer? But look, I have my own little. We don't have a backyard here, so my little. This is Freddie the Fiddly Fig. Say hi to Uncle Lonnell.
Hi, buddy.
But it's funny. Speaking about plants, though, it's like when you have this positive self-talk, like you, what you just said was so powerful. I don't even know if you realized it, but you were like, you just can't get stuck and hold on, because when you hold on, you get dragged. So you don't get stuck in the grief, but let it come through you. You don't want
Yeah.
to deflect it and just like sweep it under the rug, because what happens when you sweep a bunch of junk under the rug?
It returns bigger and better. It goes from dust under the rug to roaches, then rats. The next thing you know, so no, you've got to deal. I think, like you just said, yeah, you got let it come through you because it's coming to teach you something. You're
Hmm.
experiencing it for a reason on some level, so you need to get that lesson so you don't have to repeat it on a larger scale. But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
you must allow yourself to experience it. Just don't get stuck.
Yeah, and there's positive ways, right? And negative ways. Negative ways are doing drugs, eating a lot, and not being mindful. I think really it's about being mindful of how you feel. Like yesterday, I woke up in a funk or just kind of irritated for no reason, right? And then this like worry started happening, and then I got on the phone with a friend, and then the vibration totally changed. So it's
What do
really
you do
like,
when that happens to you, Tuan? When you wake up in a funk? Because that's a major one. Because a lot of us wake up in a funk. What do you do? I mean, to get out of that?
mm, I love that question. So there's a lot of different ways. Like this is something that is unprecedented that's been happening with the pandemic. No other time in my life has the world been shut down to this magnitude, right?
Right.
Um, so for me, I'm a communicator, and to even communicate not just with the outside world, but with the divine entity, the divine world, God, and my spirit and myself. Have been creating these like antiviral vlogs on my goinspirego.com platform, but I talk about grief. I talk about um, the it's okay to be unproductive. I talk about strengthening your stillness, because it's so important now more than ever to feel. I invite everybody to feel the contrast and to feel you being in your body. Like when I'm talking with you, I'm on a higher vibration. It shifts my day. When I'm walking down the street and this like trifling lady walking down a hill, and I was halfway down, not hill but steps, I was halfway down, and when I got down, when she showed up I was already halfway down. What was I supposed to do, walk back up? And she was like really rudely was like, you might want to think about other people sometimes, and let them walk up first. And you know what I said? My friend started arguing with her, and I was just like, you know what, have a blessed day. I hope you do too. Have a blessed day. I'm gonna cut
Yeah.
you is what I really wanted. No, just kidding.
Right. Or they say in the South, "Bless your heart." Yeah. We all know what that means, right?
But so I think for me too, it's like I think it's funny because in times of crises, I think you and I have been able to stay on this higher vibration more often. It's not about always being there, because you can't always
Well, no,
be.
because you practice it, so you practice it regularly, not just during pandemics.
Yeah,
You
right. So
have to
that when
practice
things
all the time.
come, right, when things come like this, then you're more aware of it. So I'm more aware about how lovely it is to make my bed. I really like make my bed. It just makes me feel like I've accomplished something. Some days I get dressed up, because we're not dressing up anymore. I've been wearing the same 5 things over and over again.
Guilty.
um,
Yeah, I don't. There are days though when I feel like I just don't want to get out. One, my bed is very comfortable,
me
but I
too.
was like, I don't even want to get out of it, let alone make it up. So, and I have to talk, and I realize I can tell myself, this is you're in a funk. But it's always a challenge for me to overcome that, even with all this practice and all
Mm.
these years of practice. I sit there sometimes. I'm just like, oh yeah, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do that. Da, 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 da. Okay. And then I'm like, I just sit here because I don't feel like moving. Then an hour goes by. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, you gotta get up. So that's why I was asking, like, when you're sitting there and you have that, what do you do?
I
I know
think
for
you
me,
should.
sometimes it's tea. Like if I'll have the energy tea or something,
Mhm.
I'll try to make myself get up and do that, or meditation, or something. I'll try to make myself. But sometimes it is literally difficult to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm. I think it's well, there's two things happening here, right? I think what you and I are talking about is on the dimmer side and not the darker side, because I think that I have to say that if you are feeling like you just don't want to get out of bed and don't want to work, don't want to talk to people and don't want to eat, I mean, there's some very severe depression there going on that you need to
Right.
seek some sort of help from a doctor, medical help. But I think what you and I are talking about is, yeah, some days like I just feel like, well, I don't really not feel like getting out of bed anymore because I've been obsessed with like the sunrises, and I
Hmm.
just sit here and like, so I think having something to look forward to is important.
That
I
excites
love
you.
interior design and stuff too, so it's like in my living room I created in a way where like I'm sitting on this like French linen settee next to my window here where I have a beautiful view of Coit Tower and the sun's coming up. So I want to like race to meet the sun because that's the best time to do your manifestation
Hmm.
meditations. So like tricking yourself and creating like little spaces, other creature comforts, other places. Like I go to my little coffee and tea station. I just call it a station at home. But I make my little tea first. I do my little 15 seconds of minutes of silence, and then I do generally a guided meditation and start journaling in the morning and have some coffee. But it was funny because before this pandemic, I didn't, I was just always so hurried in this rush world on this like merry-go-round, if you will, spinning, 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 and not really making time to sit. And even if it's like, another thing that I blogged about is just sitting in for 10 deep breaths in the morning, or 1 minute a month, and then adding a minute to it so that at the end of the year, when we'll still be in this pandemic. No, I'm just kidding. it'll be it'll be 12 minutes. So I just think it's whatever, like you have to act on that kind of positive impulse sometimes. And I love, love,
Right.
love, love. You just answered your own question there, is that you went rollerblading. You
Yeah.
moved your
Yeah.
body. And I think it's about moving your mind, your body, and your spirit. And it's different shifts of different things that you could do different days. Not every day you should do the same thing. Not every day you should rollerblade, because some days you
Right.
just feel like dipping into a book,
Right. Right.
right? Some days you want to chat with a friend and be cozied up in bed. But there's that momentum and that shift that happens.
Yeah, and I've noticed though that, like, since I've gotten back into like a regular exercise regimen and it's just not sporadic, that I do have energy to want to get out of bed in the morning.
Hmm.
I just made that connection. I was like, no, since you started really getting back into a regimen, you're really up and ready to go, and you're ready to actually do something. You want to burn some calories, you want to sweat, because it just, that in itself is a sense of accomplishment. It gives you a sense of accomplishment each day. So much to be thankful for.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so wait, so are you going to show me your six pack?
When it returns, right
I
now it's
saw.
about a half pack.
I saw
It's
your
like
social media.
one little pack right here. That's it.
I got me a little rice belly right now because I'm. One thing that I really enjoy a lot nowadays is like I've started baking. Boo! I've never
Uh,
baked ever in my life. So I made pancakes and pound cakes and then blueberry muffins, and then I was like, okay, I stopped because I was like, I'm feeling bloated and my pants are getting tight.
yes, so
but
that
but
right.
that's one of the ways I was indulging in my processing too. I think it's funny because I watch other people at some YouTube channels, or I think they're called channels, right? I'm old.
I think they still call channels.
Okay. No, you didn't. Um, so yeah. So I watched some spiritual like teachers. I say quotes because some people just feel like they're just forcing stuff to happen. And aside from even spiritual teachers, there's this one, I'm not going to say her name and out her, but there's this one really well known um, homemaker maven. and she was on an Instagram call, and the same thing had happened in one of our previous YOLO calls where like there's all this feedback and then it's like slow internet, and like she was so pissed. And it was funny watching it because I was like, girl, take a deep breath. You're gonna blow a gasket, okay? Your hydrangea petals are gonna blow up, girl. But
And that's stuff that's beyond your control. So why are you
yeah.
gonna make yourself nuts about it?
So that's another thing too. It's like, you know, you just have to know to be present enough to take a deep breath when you're grieving and going through these things. And then knowing that whatever the feels you have is okay. Go through your feels. It's
Right.
okay to feel unproductive if you are a spiritual teacher, executive coach, or leader person. One of the best things for me when I am going through like major calamity or have to make a major life decision is I just sit. When you don't know what to do, don't do anything,
Yeah.
right?
But that's very hard when there's like a million what ifs and you're going through your mind. You know, you're like, well, maybe I should do this. What if I do that? Da, 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 da. And I'm trying to, my
Yeah.
world is like this, and you're telling me, oh, just be still.
Yep.
But
So
really,
you
you
know
do
what?
need to do that.
Yeah, right. But it's funny that I love that you're playing devil's advocate. But the last conversation that you had just also alluded to. Don't worry about what you cannot control, i.e., oh, I ain't got no job. You know, how am I gonna pay the bills, right? You cannot worry about who's going to hire you, but you can worry about getting your CV zhuzhed up, getting your cover letter like pristine, connecting with people, networking, putting yourself out there. One of the beautiful things that I've been seeing a lot on LinkedIn is people sharing their experiences of their lowest points and saying, reach out to me, my company's hiring.
Right.
Or
Right.
if you just need to chat, we're all in this together. And when we know that, and I think if this is the biggest takeaway in all of, I believe, your and my teachings or your and my um, preachings, if you will, is that you are not alone
At
and
all.
there is hope. We will always be okay. Think about the time when your oh shit moments, like oh crap, you know. And guess what? We got through them, right? We're
Got
more
through
than
'em,
okay.
and you will get through this. Just make sure that you get through this as a better and more evolved human being.
Amen.
Don't just get through this and then go back to, because if you revert back to your old ways and we just go back to the way things were, what's going to happen is we didn't get the lesson, so it's going to return on an even more grand scale.
Hmm.
So I'm like, pandemic is enough. I don't need Mother Nature teaching me any more lessons. She's got my full attention. I will obey.
I
I
don't
just
need
hope the
another
rest of
lesson
us do.
today. What?
I said, I hope the rest of us obey too.
Well, that's the thing I'm really praying for is that, you know, I think that when the spiritual awakening comes, it's up to you whether or not you receive the teachings or
Right.
not. You know, I the other day it just annoyed me, or I should be also aware of my judginess because I'm super judgy nowadays. I'm not gonna lie now, but I was just thinking, what are these people thinking that? I don't know. One of the cruise lines opened up and they're having like super cheap sales in the fall, like in August.
Bon voyage, biatches. No, I'm like, no, thank you.
Right? And
Right,
so
right.
600%, this article said, it's gone up 600%.
And
Insane.
mind you, the cruise lines were having issues before the pandemic with people getting sick
Yeah.
and foodborne illnesses. And I'm like, I think I've been dying to go on a cruise, but I don't want to die going on a cruise. So I think I'll sit it out for a few more months. I'm already taking enough risk on the airplane, but the planes have been cleaner than they've ever been I've ever seen ever.
Yeah, right. I'm paying attention just to the contrast of everything. It's like when do you feel good, when you feel bad, when you feel light, when you feel dark, when you're feeling like this higher vibration, when are you not? Like noticing like when I'm getting irritated. There's been several times this past I can count like past few days where it's like this irritation filled up in me, and then I'm like choose to let it go and then flip my script and change my story. And speaking about story, going back to the whole Michelle Obama thing, I think it is So interesting that you just randomly pulled out that book and that was so unplanned, because I think for me as a little boy growing up in South Sac in a bad neighborhood, it I never thought my story mattered, and books were my passport, and communication, reading, writing, talking was my passport out of that situation. And so I believe that knowing your that you matter, your story matters, and knowing that every moment, even the moments where I felt unproductive or stuck or icky, is just a part of this unfolding story
Right.
and learning from it. I think one of the biggest lessons to be learned in life is all challenges are moments for us to learn.
They are. They all are. And you need to take advantage and get the lesson. Don't be stubborn like me and wait for the whole house to come tumbling down on top of you. Listen and obey those whispers. When you first get those little hunches that hmm, something's not totally right here. But I just would ignore it. But you can't if you do, it just comes back and comes back until you get it. And then, like I said, the whole house comes tumbling down and you have no choice but to address it. So
Some people never get it, they just die not getting it. I mean, like, again, different, if you don't learn, we keep saying this over and over, but I can say it every single episode because it's like, or every single conversation, that if you do not learn from a situation, it's going to come back in different ways, shapes, forms, situations. And
learn before you get burned. Yes.
right, exactly.